Hello, good morning or afternoon, happy Friday, happy whatever day this is that you're watching. Welcome. Hopefully some of you will be able to join live. Just adjust, get a little less of the ceiling and a little more of me and my happy sloth. Welcome, good morning. Today I am going to be talking about a very exciting topic that I am extremely passionate about because I'm really all about empowerment, and I am a kind of recovering control freak. So when I realized that there were 3 things in life that I actually could control, and I was able to focus my energy and attention on those and actually create differences in my lives, then it made all the difference. Good morning, welcome. So before I get started talking about the 3 things in life that I feel we can control, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about this. What do you think I might say, or what do you think are the 3 things in life that we can actually control? Because there is certainly a lot in our lives that we don't have control over. And let me give you a little hint about that. All of that stuff is out here. It's all out here in the world. Other people, other things that are happening, the weather, events, news, all of that is outside of our control. But the 3 things that I'm going to be talking about today are right in here, within our control. And let me just say that most people are more concerned about what's happening out here because it feels easier, even though we can't control it. So it's kind of like just spinning our wheels without even getting anywhere. But it feels more difficult to actually look inside at the things that we do have control over. And it does take effort and it does take support. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but it is within our control. So I'm going to talk about these 3 things, my thoughts about this, some nuances about this, because of course there's always nuances in everything. It's never like black and white and straightforward. And then I'm going to talk about my experiences working through these things in my life currently, because just because I know this and I've done the work doesn't mean that I don't continue to do the work. There's always more stuff that's coming up that we can work with. So the first one that we can control are our thoughts. It's really funny. I was having a conversation with somebody last weekend, and they said something about how we don't have any control over our thoughts. And I was like, yeah, actually we do have control over our thoughts. So here's the nuance about that. And I want to be really clear about this because a lot of people feel really bad about the thoughts that come into their head. And I want to release you of any, feelings of guilt or feelings of shame or feelings of wrongness. Like, I want to release you of all of those feelings, because those feelings are what's going to keep us trapped and what's going to keep us small and feeling bad. But you can't control the thoughts that come into your head, okay? You have no control over that. So please just release yourself from that. Thoughts are going to come up. They're going to feel crazy. It's like, I have things that come into my head. I'm like, where did that come from? I don't even know. So you can't control the thoughts that come into your head. It's just like, I like to use this analogy with the people that I work with. You can't control the people that come up to your door, right? It's like, people are going to knock on your door. They're going to want things from you. You can't control that. But what you can control is how much effort and attention you give to those thoughts. So this is where the control comes in, okay? You can't control what comes knocking on the door, but you do have control over whether you open the door and invite them in for tea or coffee, and how much time you spend with them, right? So when a person starts working with their thoughts, you can really look at it in 2 different ways. And this is something that I help everybody that I work with, and I work with on myself all the time. So we can consciously choose different thoughts to put into our head, right? And you can think of those as like mantras, or in psychology, we call them positive coping statements, something more positive or more helpful that you're using to replace the other thoughts in your head. And for myself, I like to keep them on like loop, because when I am consciously choosing the thought that I want to think on a loop, then the other thoughts don't have any space to be able to take up time in my head. So that's one way that a person can work with their thoughts. Another way that a person can work with their thoughts is by realizing that we are the ones that have control over how we perceive something. Okay. And this is a really big one. And a lot of people, may not like this because it's actually really asserting our own control, and it keeps us from playing the victim. It keeps us from using excuses. And that's okay, because the people who are ready to hear this and are ready to work on this, you're going to appreciate that I'm saying this. So here we go. So we have the ability to choose how we perceive situations, right? It's just like stress or trauma. It's not actually the thing that's happening. It's how we are perceiving it that makes the difference in how it affects us. Okay. So in my own life recently, I have really been shifting from looking at problems into opportunities, right? So that's a big one that we can all work with, because we all have things that come up that feel like problems, right? But if we focus on the fact that they are a problem, then we're just going to send that energy towards that problem, instead of how can I shift this and like kind of shift lanes into thinking, okay, what are the opportunities here? How can I see this as an opportunity to choose something different, to do something different, to heal something that needs to be healed at this time? And then I can be more empowered in the way that I am working with it, right? The other is like, oh, I have no control over this. This is happening to me. This is such a problem. And then if we are to shift into, okay, I don't like this. I wouldn't have chosen this. I don't want to be dealing with this right now. But how can I look at this as an opportunity? How can I choose to see this as a way that I can do something a little bit differently than what I was doing before, right? Because as we change, as we grow, we have to do things differently. If we keep doing things the same way, nothing will ever change. So those are really the two ways that I see us able to work with our thoughts. And we can do that with every single thought that comes into our head. First, we have to be aware of the thoughts that come into our head and be able to notice what they are so that we can work with them. So that's kind of like the more basic step. And, this is why I teach my Free Your Mind program, because I really help people to get clear on, or just be able to be aware of the thoughts that are coming in. And then you can have the opportunity to be able to work with them. So the first of the three things that we have control over are our thoughts. And hopefully you understand how that is possible, and that you can work with them. So the second one is our emotions, right? So another nuance here, it's just like the thoughts. We don't have control over the emotions that are going to pop up, right? We are a living, breathing human being. And part of being a living, breathing human being is that we have access to all of these emotions. And some of them may be more comfortable than others. Some of them may be, more what we're used to feeling. But we are going to be able to feel all emotions. And actually, all emotions are valid. They are very important to feel. So when the emotions pop up, it's not, when I work with people with emotions, it's not as quick as changing the thoughts. Like a thought that is not helpful, unless it's helping us to be creative and find a solution to something, and then we do need to focus on it for a little bit longer. But if it's something that we have kept thinking over and over again, and we know that it's not getting us anywhere because we've exhausted all of the ways that, all of the lessons that we can learn from it, then it's time to let it go. It's like as soon as that thought pops up, it's time to shift it because it's not helpful for us anymore. With our emotions, it's a little bit different, because our emotions are there actually as communication to us. They are telling us information. They are either letting us know that we have been wronged by somebody and there's maybe something that we need to do about that, or that somebody else has been wronged and there's something that we need to do about that. Like that would be the case with if we get angry about something. If we get sad about something, right? It's something that is kind of lacking in our lives. So we need to look at that too. What is missing? How can we give ourselves that missing experience? So we can gain information from emotions. And I have a really simple 3-step process that I bring everybody through that I work with in working with their emotions that I'm not going to get into right now because it's too long to kind of go through everything, but I just want to say that it's important to feel the emotions. It's important to also know how to shift your emotions. Okay, so that is also what we have control over. This is where the control comes in with emotions. We can choose to feel them and know how to feel them and know how to work with them. And then we can also know how to shift into the emotional state that we actually want to feel, because that's very important. And when it comes to emotions, and I have learned this in all of my training in somatic psychology and in mind-body medicine and integrative health, and I've also seen it firsthand in all of my work with chronic pain, in my work with cancer patients, in my work with working in hospitals. If you do not work with your emotions, they will manifest in physical ways. Okay? That's just the way that our bodies work. It doesn't make rational sense a lot of the times, but that is what is going to happen. So it is so important to know how to work with your emotions, to know how to be able to feel them, to be with them, to be able to work with them, to shift them, and then also, to be able to shift them, right? How can we healthily express these emotions that are coming up in a way that's not going to be harmful for us or another person? We don't want to stuff it down. That would be harmful to us. We don't want to lash out. That's going to be harmful to another person. And we also need to know how to be able to shift ourselves into the emotional state that we actually want to feel. So all of that is within our control. So those are the first two, our thoughts, our emotions, and then we come to our behaviors. I think that this is probably the most obvious one. It's like, well, yeah, of course, we have control over our behaviors. But how often are we not actually asserting control over our behaviors? How often are we continuing to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, even though we say we don't want to? And this is another place that some people are going to be like, not really like it because it's not going to feel good to them. There are so many excuses that people make for the reasons that they do things. There are so many, and yes, there are absolutely limiting beliefs. There are absolutely habitual patterns that need to be broken, unconscious ways that we are reacting, but all of that is within our control, because once we become aware of those habitual patterns, once we become aware of those limiting beliefs, once we become aware of those unconscious ways and bring them up to consciousness, then we have the ability to change them, right? So we have control over our behaviors. And again, it seems obvious, but I want you to get curious about what are some of the things that you say that you want that you're not moving towards, or some of the things that you say that you don't want in your life that you're not doing anything about to get rid of them, right? This is where that information comes up, because it's easy to say, oh, I don't have time for that, or I can't do that because of my ADHD, or I can't do that because, this person wouldn't like it, right? One of the ways that I really love to work with people with this is to be able to see that you always have a choice, right? You always have a choice. We are always constantly, all the time, choosing to do things in a certain way. And we have a choice. We may feel like we don't have a choice. We may feel like we have to do something the way that we're doing it, but that's not true. It's not true. We are actually choosing to do it. We live in a free will society. We really, really, really do. And we have control over our actions and our behaviors. So, the other thing that I actually want to say that I forgot to say about our emotions is that our thoughts greatly influence our emotions. So as you work with your thoughts, you will be able to change your emotional state, which is really cool. And also, our emotions, because it goes both ways, right? It's not just a downward process from the brain down to the body, there's also all of this upward information that's coming up too. So our emotions are also going to influence our thoughts. That is the beauty. The behaviors, the thoughts, and the emotions, they're all related. They're all related because when you implement a change in one, it is going to affect the others. And I love to help people do this in whatever way feels most approachable to them, whether it's starting to work with their thoughts, starting to work with their emotions, or starting to work with their behaviors, because I know that as they make progress in one of those areas, it is going to create positive results in the others, which is just going to continue that progress and continue that motivation to keep going, right? Because as we see things start to work, we're like, oh, okay, I can actually do this. I can actually do this. And then we continue to keep going. So it's really cool to like help kind of assess what area a person is ready to start working in first, and then be able to help them to implement change in that area so that then they can affect all of them. Because the end place that we all want to get to is to be able to work with all three of them all the time, right? To know that we have control, that we have power over all three of those, and that we can consistently be working with them. And so this is where I've come in my life, because I've been working with these things for a very long time. It was actually my thoughts that I started to work with. And I can't remember what year it was. It was probably 2014, maybe 2015. So almost 10 years ago, I signed up for this online program. It was called Up-Level Your Life by Christine Kane. And it was like this life coaching kind of group program. She would send an email every day, and it came with, I think I probably still have the book somewhere. Or maybe I threw it away because I was like, I got this. But it came with this really big binder, and there were all of these emails that I would get. I think it was like a 30-day program, and every day I would receive an email, and it was all about working with your thoughts. And, you know, I have training in psychology. I got my bachelor's in psychology. I got my master's in somatic psychology. Like, I have a lot of education in working with my thoughts, but I didn't have the, like, let's hit the ground running and really, really focus on this on a personal level. And so that was like my first foray into, wow, when I do this, I can actually notice changes outside in my life. And that was kind of the catalyst that then allowed me to really start working with my emotional state, and also to start working with my behaviors and taking aligned action with the things that I say are important to me. And I also want to say that nobody is perfect. I am certainly not perfect. So just because I know how to work with all of these things does not mean that I do it perfectly all the time, and that like I'm always in control of my behaviors. There are always new levels that we get to drop into, and new ways that we get to enhance our ability to work with these things. And I am definitely at a new place right now in my life, and I've been working with them really more and more than I have in the last, 8 years probably, whenever I started the Up-Level Your Life program. And the reason that I think that is true is because I'm so ready for it right now. Like, I'm ready for that next level of this, and the reminder of like how powerful this is, and how important this is, and how if we can focus on this, we really truly can change and transform our lives. So just a couple of examples of how this has been going through in my life. Two of the main ways that I see people needing to work with these things, or like how this comes up, right, is one, what is the number one thing that people stress over? I'd love to hear that in the comments. Number one thing that people stress over. Money. People stress over money, right? And we have all of these we have all of these feelings about money, all of these beliefs about money, all of these prior experiences around money. And it's not just our experiences, it's what our family experienced, what generations before us experienced. Like all of that travels inside of us in our DNA and is part of our unconscious experience too. So I've had some things that have come up recently around money, which is something that I consciously said that I was ready to work on shifting my energy around. So again, it's like once you put something out into the universe to say, okay, I'm ready to work on this, the universe is going to say, all right, here you go, let's do this, right? And so I've really been having to notice the feelings that come up, because that's usually the first indication that there is something to work on. We notice those uncomfortable feelings, right? Like I was talking about. For me, there in the past was a lot of constriction around money. There was a lot of shame around money. There was a lot of fear around like getting in trouble around money. So whenever I started to notice that coming up, then I know that there's some kind of thought that I need to be shifting, right? So the feelings come up. I notice that there's some kind of thought, some kind of belief that I really need to look at. And then I work with changing my thoughts, just like I was talking about before, so that I can then shift the energy that I am holding around this thing, so that then I can take aligned action that is actually moving me towards the opportunities as opposed to moving me towards the problems. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that's been really big that's moving through my life, and the other way that I see people kind of coming up against all of this, is when we choose to grow and when we choose to expand. And our ego doesn't like that. Our like the parts of ourselves that want to keep us safe do not like that. They do not like that. And they will start to freak out, and they will start to, send up all of these thoughts that like alarm signals, like warning, 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 you're going to like combust or something like that. And something terrible is going to happen if you continue in this way, because they just want to keep you safe. They just want to keep you safe. So one of the ways that this has been coming up for me is with my embodied groove experience that I am putting on. And this is something that has been wanting to be birthed out of me for years. I actually almost had it going in 2020, right before the pandemic, and then it got canceled. And I know that like I'm grateful that it didn't happen at that time, because I really am at a different place with how I want to bring this, and even with myself and my confidence in the work that I'm doing. So I'm really grateful that the time is now, but it's also, there are parts of myself that are kind of freaking out sometimes. And just in stepping up and actually like holding the energy and the space of 4 incredible and amazing musicians, and being able to command the energy of the room in a way that is transformative and impactful for everybody there. And I know that I can do that because I've done that time and time and time and time again. And people come up to me and they tell me how impactful the embodied groove experience, well, I will say the embodied groove classes that they have been to have been. And so like, I know that when I reflect on that, but there are parts of me that are like, who are you to do this? Like, what are you doing? This is like bigger than you've done before. This is not safe. And so I really have been working on noticing those feelings coming up, being able to, again, work with my thoughts, be able to work with my beliefs about it, and to be able to shift it in a way that I'm not hanging out there, because that's not what I want to create. I don't want to create fear. I don't want to create smallness. I don't want to create all of those things that energy has. I want to be able to provide the highest and best experience possible for everybody there, because that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing this, because I know how powerful this work is. And it's just choosing to come through me. It could choose to come through anybody else. So that's another thing that I have to remind myself too. This is not about me. And when my ego starts to think like, who are you to do this or whatever, it's like, I'm just the person that embodied groove chose to come through. And I'm also the person that chose to listen to it, to take aligned action. because I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert said this. Somebody like Elizabeth Gilbert, if it wasn't her, that ideas are actually just things that are floating around, right? And an idea is going to come to multiple people. It's the person that actually takes action on that idea that's going to be the one that's going to bring it into existence. And that's where that aligned action comes in, right? So to review, the 3 things that you have control over are your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors. And I just want to see, if you work on these 3 things, your life will change. Your life will change. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in countless people that I've worked with lives. Your life will change. Your health will improve, which I think is really amazing and fantastic, because there are all of these things out here that we try to focus on when it comes to health, like, oh, let me find the best supplement, let me find the best anti-aging serum, let me find, the most healthy and organicest food, right? Which is really important on what we nourish ourselves with. I'm not saying that doesn't matter, but what makes so much impact is all of the things that I just mentioned that are in here. Our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors. When you can begin to really work on those, your health will change. Your relationships will also change. Now, sometimes they can change in ways that you're releasing relationships that are not actually aligned with who you are anymore and where you're going. But your important relationships that are really, the ones that matter are going to strengthen. And then, of course, there's all other kinds of things that are going to improve. Your confidence is going to improve. Your energy is going to improve. Your sleep is going to improve. Your mood is going to improve. Your sex is going to improve. Like, all of the things. Your wealth will improve. All of those things will fall into place if you take empowered action on the 3 things that you have control over in your life. So notice the feelings. Work with the thoughts. Dig into what's behind them. Shift your thoughts, shift your emotions, take aligned action. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you are feeling like you want some change in your life, whether that is just feeling more like yourself, whether that is really having that clarity in your emotional state, whether that is feeling more empowered, like, that's what I'm all about. I just want to help you feel more empowered in your life, because when you can do that, then you can continue to take aligned action. You will know what is right for you. And you will also know that you can do, like, no matter what comes your way, you have the skills to be able to work with it. You have the skills to be able to come up on top after it, right? That's resilience. And that is so important. That doesn't come from medication. It doesn't come from some magical elixir. It comes from inside here, inside your body. So if you are interested in learning how you can work with me, because I would love to help support you in all of these things, then please reach out to me. You can schedule a free consult by going through the link in my bio or visiting my website, Dr. Leah Taylor. You can also, I have a couple of programs that are running right now or about to start in the near future. Blissful Every Day is my 30-day mastermind that I am so excited about. This is really focused on the shifting of the emotional state. And we are going to be an intimate group of no more than 10 people coming together with the intention of consciously shifting our emotional state into a blissful and sustained state. Now, this is not about just like toxic positivity or, being positive all the time. It's about actually feeling blissful in your everyday life, even in the mundane. And I'm really excited to do this because there's something that happens once you pull yourself out of like the complaining and the really always focusing on what's going wrong into a group of people that are consciously choosing to really feel good on a regular basis. It's just like so activating and so supportive. So reach out to me if that sounds like something that you might be interested in. I also, what else do I have going on? Well, I'm about to introduce, I sent it out to my email list yesterday, a spiritual guidance offer, which I'm really super excited about with that. How does that relate to thoughts, emotions, and behaviors? Well, when we can know that we're on the right path and that we are supported by something larger than ourselves, then we can continue to have the courage to work with these things that I just named today. So if you are wanting to kind of enhance your spiritual connection or your sense of spirituality, which was something that I many years ago was like, this is really kind of an area that I feel like is lacking in my life. And once I began to enhance it, everything changed. Everything changed. It was like the missing piece of the light and the vitality and the inner knowing and trust that I needed in my life. So I could do a whole nother live about that, and maybe I will soon. So I love you very much. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'd love to hear how this is landing, what you're taking away from this, because there's a lot of really important nuggets in this live. And I just hope that you have a beautiful rest of your week. I hope you have a beautiful weekend, and I hope that we stay connected. So much love to you. Go out and feel empowered in your life. That is what I wish for you. So, mwah. I'll see you next time. I'll be back here next Friday, 11 a.m. Bye.